Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Cilinix Crypto and welcome to this new specific video on Solana. We're going to do a full update on the current situation for Solana. We'll talk about the structure, we'll talk about what to expect, we'll talk about whether it's potentially a good idea to buy Solana again, which I have some thoughts on. I mean, purely from a technical, but also from a fundamental perspective. It's actually not the worst idea, but we'll talk about that in a moment. For now, let's get right into it. It's been a while since I covered Solana. I think if you watch my last videos, which it was already, we already knew that this was a possibility, right? You can see a lot of bullish divergences, by the way, right here. But the thing is that we already knew that once we had that shift to the downside right here at the beginning of November, we already knew it was bad news, right? Because what happened earlier is that we had reclaimed back into the value area right here. So that's that blue line, and that's the value area that we have been in since March 2024. So that's very long. And then from that consolidation we had within that range, like we needed to break back out. If we were not going to break back out of the range, it was always going to be most likely that we would drop down to the point of control. And then if there was no strong reaction at the point of control, which there definitely was not about 1.5 weeks ago, we would drop down to the value area low. Where we are right now, by the way. Okay, so right now we are at the value area low of the range which we have fallen back into. Which means that purely from a risk-reward standpoint, technically, at this point of time, we're actually at a very interesting level, right? Because for the first time, when we're talking about risk rewards, there's more reward than there is risk. If from this value area low, we get back up to the value area high at 190, for example, that's a reward. So that's a move of about 50%, which is realistically possible. While to the downside, I mean, if you put a stop loss under the value area low, it's about a 15 to a 20% loss. So purely from a technical standpoint, the current situation is actually quite interesting. You can also see we have a major trend line right here. That is something to keep your eyes on. It's a weekly trend line. So that matters a lot. And we have the weekly 200 EMA. So, and it's also a point of control of a previous range. So purely from a technical standpoint, I would say we're going to bounce here. Now, unfortunately, if the market would have respected technicals, we wouldn't have crashed so much in the last month. So can you make decisions only on the technicals? I don't know. I mean, if you really zoom into Solana, for example, you can also still see that there's some major bullish divergences going into that level. It looks like Bitcoin has formed some sort of a local bottom. We will not look at that right now, but still it does look like that. So ultimately, from a technical standpoint, I would say, okay, Solana has been able to reclaim the value area low, reclaim the trend line. I think it's most likely we're going to rally a little bit higher into 138, 140 at least, where we have the monthly point of control, which is liquidity, and also some fair value gaps, which again work as a bit of a magnet. Now, the last but most important question we have to ask ourselves then is, okay, are there any fundamentals that would state otherwise, that would go against expecting this? And I think at this point of time, no, but there are some things that could happen which would make that so. Okay, we could still drop down into 115, we could still drop down into 110, which I would say is the next support level. It's not a major support level, but it is a support level. But then what would need to happen is new bad news to come around on Monday. Okay, so at this point of time, I'm giving you some examples. Bad news can come in many forms. But if, for example, the probability that we're going to get a rate cut the 10th of December drops down significantly, that's bad news. Then we could still drop down below our most important level, which at this point of time is actually sitting around 126. If we drop down below 126, the entire reclaim that we had since Friday and Saturday is gone. Okay, so keep your eyes on that. And then outside of that, liquidity problems. If Monday we have repo operations again, if Monday the SOFR spread increases again, widens again, that's bad news. And then we can also drop down. But those were both not a problem on Friday. Okay, so therefore, I would still say that I think this is most likely. It's just a risky market, okay? And whether I'm going to take this setup or not, I'm still thinking about that. The ETF inflows have not been bad. We still got ETF inflows, and they're also not decreasing necessarily. So that's another reason why you would expect something like this. But I'm going to be careful, and maybe I'm going to be a little bit greedy and wait for a move back down into this level right here at 126, 127 or something like that. But those are my thoughts. I think that's what you need to know for now. So thank you for watching, everybody. Take care and bye.